Hey, everybody. Welcome back for another deep dive with us. You guys ready to get a little weird today?
Oh, always ready to get weird.
Okay, perfect.
Huh.
Well, today we are going deep into the story of an Indonesian shaman named Ahmad Suradji. Now, this guy believed he could gain ultimate power. And his
Mm.
method, let's just say it involves milk and 70 dead women.
70 dead women.
Yeah.
Wow.
You heard that right. So buckle up because this one is going to be a wild ride.
It's definitely a case that makes you kind of think about, traditional beliefs and
Okay.
how they can intersect with, extreme actions. To understand Suradji, we really need to understand the role of like shamans in Indonesian culture.
Okay, so kind of like spiritual advisors or something.
Yeah, exactly. They're often seen as bridges between the physical and the spiritual worlds. So they're consulted for healing, for guidance.
So they're respected figures then.
Yeah.
But Suradji's story takes a dark turn, right? How did he go from traditional shamanism to...
Well, that's the question that really lies at the heart of this whole case. Suradji claimed that his deceased father actually visited him in a dream and instructed him to drink the milk of 70 dead women to become the most powerful shaman.
Okay, hold on. This guy's dad shows up in a dream and tells him to go on a corpse milk bender to get superpowers. And he just rolls with it.
It sounds crazy, right?
That's not a shamanic ritual, that's a wholesale order. But here's the thing. He actually convinced 42 women to go along with this. How?
Right. Well, it seems like he really used his position as a shaman to his advantage. He was very manipulative. He would promise these women wealth, beauty protection from bad luck.
So playing on their hopes and vulnerabilities, it's just chilling to think about the trust these women placed in him, only to have it so horrifically betrayed.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that, like, belief in the supernatural, it's deeply ingrained in Indonesian culture. The line between the spiritual world and the physical world, it can be blurred.
Right, so that probably made Suradji's claims seem a little more plausible, even if his methods were so far from traditional. Didn't he have a specific way of carrying out these supposed rituals?
Yeah, he did. And this is where the details get really disturbing.
Yeah.
So Suradji would lure these women to his sugarcane plantation, and he would bury them up to their waists before strangling them.
Wait, he buried them alive. That's horrifying.
Yeah, it's a level of cruelty and premeditation that's really hard to even fathom. And it speaks to just like a really profound disconnect between, the traditional role of a shaman as a healer and a protector, and Suraji's just incredibly twisted interpretation of those beliefs.
So, okay, he's carrying out these horrible acts, convinced he's on this path to ultimate power. But he does 42 of these rituals. And he's still just Ahmad Suradji, a dude living on a sugarcane farm.
Yeah.
What was he thinking? Did he think this was actually working?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, was it genuine delusion? Was this some kind of thirst for power that he masked as spirituality? Or was it some combination of the two? It's really hard to say.
You're right. It's something we can only speculate on. But we do know that his reign of terror finally came to an end.
Right.
How did that happen?
Well, it was a missing person report that actually led to his downfall.
Yeah.
So one of Suraji's victims disappeared. And the investigation led the police straight to his sugarcane plantation. And what they found was horrifying. A mass grave containing the bodies of dozens of women.
42 bodies, to be exact. It's hard to even imagine the scale of his crimes. And to think, this all started with a dream about drinking milk from corpses. For power.
It's just a crazy story. It really highlights the dangers of unchecked ambition and the dark side of human nature. Suradji was preying on vulnerable women who were just looking for help, twisting his position of authority for his own twisted purposes.
And he was so good at manipulating these women. I mean, they willingly participated in these rituals, believing that they would actually benefit. It's just a chilling reminder of how easily people can be deceived, especially when they're desperate for solutions,
Yeah, you're right. And it's also a stark reminder that even in a society where belief in the supernatural is so common, there are still people out there who will exploit those beliefs for their own personal gain.
So Suradji wasn't really a true shaman then? He was a predator, hiding behind a mask of spirituality.
Exactly.
Okay, so after the police discovered the bodies on his plantation, what happened to Suradji? Did he try and explain his actions? Did he deny any involvement?
He actually confessed to the killings, but he claimed that he was simply following his father's instructions from that dream. He genuinely believed that what he was doing was necessary to achieve that ultimate power.
Wow, so he never wavered. Even when confronted with the consequences of his actions, It's just incredibly disturbing. Makes you wonder if he ever felt any remorse at all for what he did to those women.
It's impossible to know for sure what was going on in his mind, but his belief system was clearly warped. He was so fixated on this goal of becoming all-powerful that he completely lost sight of any sense of morality.
What about the families of the victims? I can't imagine the pain and anguish they must have felt, knowing that their loved ones had been so brutally deceived and murdered.
It's a horrible tragedy. Suradji's actions destroyed families and communities, leaving a legacy of just grief and trauma.
So this man who was so obsessed with supernatural power met a very mundane end. He was arrested in 1997 and executed by firing squad in 2008.
Right. For all his talk about magic and spiritual ascension, he ended up facing the same justice system as any other criminal.
It's almost ironic, isn't it? The elaborate ritualistic killings, the belief in supernatural power, all culminating in an ordinary execution. Do you think that clash between his beliefs and reality ever hit him?
It's a really interesting question, but unfortunately we'll never know for sure what Suradji's final thoughts were.
His story serves as such a powerful reminder, though. We need to be wary of anyone who promises these easy solutions to complex problems, especially when those solutions involve harming others.
I completely agree. Suradji's case is a cautionary tale about the dangers of blind faith and the importance of critical thinking.
And it highlights the importance of questioning authority figures, too. Even those who are traditionally seen as trustworthy or wise. Just because someone holds a position of power, it doesn't mean they're always acting in our best interests.
Exactly. We need to be critical consumers of information. We have to evaluate the claims and the evidence before we just blindly accept things.
So what does this all mean for us, listening in, trying to make sense of this horrific story? What can we learn from the nightmare that was Ahmad Suradji?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway from all this is that we have to be discerning. We all want those easy answers, right? We all want quick fixes to our problems. But we need to be so wary of anyone who claims to offer those, especially when their solutions involve harming others or, require us to just blindly believe in something.
Like if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Exactly.
And if some shaman tells you, hey, I need to bury you up to your waist for this ritual.
Yeah, run the other way.
Right. But on a more serious note, I think this deep dive has really shown us how easily our desire for these simple answers can make us vulnerable to manipulation. Suradji knew that, and he preyed on that.
Yeah, he exploited people's hopes and fears for his own gain.
It's a good reminder that we all need to be thinking critically,
Mm.
and not just in these extreme cases like Suradji, but in our everyday lives. I mean, we're constantly bombarded with information.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We have to be able to sift through it all, to question what we see, what we hear.
It's not just about, being skeptical of shamans and their promises of power. It's about applying that same skepticism to everything. The news we read, the promises politicians make, even the claims we see in advertising.
Right. It's about having a healthy sense of skepticism. It's not to be cynical or distrusting, but just so we can make informed decisions for ourselves.
Exactly.
So how can we actually do that? How do we sharpen our critical thinking skills to avoid being manipulated?
Well, I think it starts with being aware of our own biases. We all have them.
Oh, for sure.
And they can really influence how we interpret the information we receive. Once we're aware of them, we can start to challenge those biases. We can start to look at things from different perspectives.
It's so easy to get trapped in our own echo chambers these days, surrounded by people who only share our beliefs.
Right, and that's why it's so important to step outside of that.
Expose ourselves to different points of view, even if they make us a little uncomfortable.
Exactly, and it's about asking questions. Don't be afraid to kind of challenge the status quo. Dig a little deeper and look for evidence to support or refute the claims that are being made. The more questions we ask, the better equipped we'll be to make good decisions.
So critical thinking is an ongoing process then. It's not like a destination we arrive at.
It really is. It's a muscle that we have to exercise regularly. The more we use it, the stronger it gets.
Well, I think we've all had a pretty intense mental workout today, unpacking the story of Ahmad Suradji. It's a disturbing story. But ultimately, I think it's been a pretty enlightening journey.
I agree. It reminds us that the world can be a strange and often dangerous place. We need to be vigilant and informed. And above all, we need to be critical thinkers.
To everyone listening, remember the lessons we've learned from Suradji's case. Question everything, trust your gut, and never be afraid to seek the truth. Until next time, stay curious and keep diving deep.